Welcome and welcome all to my story. Welcome to my story, episode 6. In the beginning of this story, I would like to dedicate it um, to a gentleman I might have heard about him before today, but Thomas Edsel, nothing to do with the car, I think. But anyway, he had an op-ed about his book, The Age of Austerity, and there was more to it. But in the New York Times today, whatever day this is in October 2012, which really actually painted a very interesting, good vision of, well, what our probable future is. Um, it that is sort of part of the vision I saw, is that the future of the industrial revolution, the next one beyond what we've experienced, and it's sort of played out its course in the technology industry so far, is not a new set of technologies themselves, but a confluence of convergence. These were the two principal next big things behind my grander vision that I elaborated on later in my story, but I'll just get to now before we go on. But it all ties to how we value our planet. How do we value our future? And that all ties to what he's evaluating. And our future doesn't look so bright because there's no new industrial revolution to replace the one that he describes that occurred basically from the late 80s to early 2000. And so, well, the future is a confluence and convergence, a reprocessing, a restructuring of enterprise, going beyond Wall Street, well, buying out Wall Street, which is a screwed up game, a game well being played. When you think about what was the world worth in 2005, and we kept marking it up and marking up till 2007 and 2008, and then it crashed, and what was it really worth then? And what is it really worth now in this illusion that the stock markets have like almost doubled back from their crash? But what's holding us back from crashing those to our levels? Because our real estate's still at levels that were back there. But that's not on the point. We ultimately can't afford this thing that was designed to fail, and that, okay, that's where it might be biblical, but we're not going to go there now. So the value of things that's depending on the future, and I guess in contrast to his ideas, I'd like to present the ideas to Thomas Edful, that maybe the inception of our future is this confluence of convergence, where we take all of the things that we do, our systems of governance and transportations, our economics and banking, and integrate in them to a single monolithic IT architecture secured with, well, advancing the state of technologies beyond what we can was like fractionalized, while we fighting it out for our own pieces of the pie, or realize that if we put all pieces together and create a system, a giant monolithic system, that we can create prosperity across the whole system. And well, the other thing that I invented that might in of itself, and I call each of these things next big things. What about a virtual money? A money that we could create growing. If we could create a money that could keep growing and growing and growing, that we can fund building a future for ourselves, then that would change all of the orders of all of the math of how we build this confluence of convergence. So it's like one and one, it's like can't be done together. They must be done together, and then that's where they must take you, because just because we have the fingers, and they called them in the olden days the fickle fingers of fate, doesn't mean we know how to choose to tie them together into the pyramid of Oz. But okay, so let's go to the notion of, no, let's not go to the notion of the New World Order. Let me go back to the time when I came out with the Three Wise Kids, and I brainstormed, but it didn't go as easy as I said last time. I started trying to invent things, and I started trying to grapple with ideas. I bought a RAID server from Apple for $50,000, and well, I thought, well, I could put every name on the planet in this RAID server, and my idea in the longer term was sort of the advance of Facebook, but I didn't have the path of Facebook, but my idea was the same as Facebook. Because what if everybody, see, my idea was, well, that was beyond my first ideas, but anyway, Yeah, that's right. I was going back to, like, how do I get my bigger ideas going with a little idea in your planet to make that little idea bigger? And so I couldn't come up with the core, the kernel of that idea. And I went for about a month of experimenting my mind and recording things, because that was my way of keeping my own patents, as long as it was first to invent it. Now you're trying to screw that. But so then I told you I had this, I call him Doubting Phil. I was asking him things like, have you ever read the Bibles? And he said, no. And, well, okay. They weren't relevant to our little business, but in the longer term of getting the people on Earth from all over the planet on Earth, we need to understand the context with which their cultures are derived. And religion's a key part of it, and we just can't ignore that. In fact, it's a key factor in our whole enterprise. But that's a sight. That's just marketing future 10111. Anyway, so no significance to the number. Maybe there are. Anyway, so okay, so here we go. And so the Ides of March go around, and then April goes around, and I just say, oh, I lost it. So I've been hiring Jeff at $10 an hour, and then I gave him a raise of $30 an hour. And I said, Jeff, and he was living in my house, and when I was sleeping in my bed, I didn't, I was on the couch, and then anyway, I said, okay, I can't hire you anymore. I got to go back to square one and rethink this whole thing over. And then I went to a wireless conference with this route right in my town, across the block from where I lived almost. And when I went there, I saw Doubting Phil, and there's this guy from the days called Jerry Purdy, and had a conference. And within the conference, and within the confines of the lectures on what the future would bring, I conceived of a concept, and that was the one I described before, is what if we could create a software architecture and take all over the access points and just sort of like take them over, but not like unwillingly, but willingly, with the people saying, yes, take over my access point, give me secure benefits, and let me be a part of this new transaction. Let me be a part of this enterprise. Let my access point be a base station for others. And when they get on, now see, once we redirect the internet to our own internet, well, that how Google's Google. See, we could do our own search, but see, we ultimately don't even. Well, that's where it gets into it, because ultimately you end up getting to a war things and a war. But anyway, the idea was anyway, during the scheme of this, I wouldn't call it a scheme, that was the technology scheme, to take all your access points and create a wireless people's network that would bypass Verizon and bypass AT&T, and anyway, but so the next thing was internet capitalism. And that was my way to pay for it. It's like, what if I could just give people shares, virtual shares in this enterprise, and well, just like give them virtual shares in an enterprise that's the biggest enterprise the enterprises have ever seen. What lies beyond Google? It starts at 100 billion, goes to trillion, could get to 10 trillion. What if you could give, you see, imagine a Facebook with all the people of Earth, with all the faces on Facebook, shareholders, and growing in value, and earning money for their own hands. That's right, because in my scheme, it was like, why should all the profits go to the owners of the capital? Why shouldn't the profits go to the people? Why shouldn't we take a third of the profits? Hey, we could do it all kinds of ways, but let's get really creative and way out of your bounds. A third of the profits goes to the person who clicked on the ad, generated the consumption, and what have you, bought the product, the consumer. A third of the profits goes in stock to everybody on Earth. And a third of the profits goes to the bank of us, which again is owned by the people, but it goes, well, not distributed equally. That's the third. The other third goes to all the investors by their own investments. So the billionaires get a big chunk of that third. But it doesn't matter, because they've all signed up the flow of a mechanism. Because when they get to be billionaires, and we'll move the bar to trillionaires, they automatically agree. They give all of it back to the people. But the reason that becomes so simple is because, well, we put them all in the movie. I don't know if I made that very clear to you. But our entire reality goes into a movie, and everybody you know is on TV, and all of the people around you that aren't even on TV are now on TV in my movie. As I moved it forward in my mind, it actually ties into the next of my iterations of the story, the revolution from the top to the bottom. But in my movie, which is your movie, it's really, I don't even want it to be my movie. I was always looking for Wizard of Oz. I wanted to play the Wizard of Oz behind the curtain. Actually, I wanted to play Wizard of Oz. I was looking for Dorothy to play me. I didn't want to play Dorothy. Ultimately, I did, but that's another story. Okay, so, anyway, so what? So, lost our trains of thoughts. Okay, so we're back into internet capitalism. See, it's the virtual circle. And so, in the context of a global scale, think about this. If we could grow and advance all of our prosperity, we can make the rich richer, and we can, for them, just securing the safety of their assets is probably all they need. And then, for all of the people in the middle, we can share those profits. Now, for those in those developed nations who have the profits, the first thing is we're buying their things out. So we're buying their stocks and everything out. And when I started offering to buy the world, I offered to pay a minimum of 1.5 times every equity on the planet, easily. I offered 3 to 5 times Apple and Google. They're up to that point now. But in 2005, they're not where they are now. The point was, it's like funny money when you're putting it in the context of a global recreation and a global constitution of our enterprise. And so, it's like also money that we know how to create. Because this new enterprise we create, we tie into our new monetary system. And that new monetary, not only do I have a vision of a new stock, but I have a vision of a new monetary system. By the way, going back to the story, and then by the way, we got this guy to do our technical stuff, and we added him and said, okay, you get a third if you do agree to bill him. We'll call him Doubting Jim, but he did help architect moving the internet, and he did tell me, holy fuck, we could hold worldwide elections. And then I knew we could surround them from the bottom, if not from the top. We could hold worldwide elections any time we wanted to. The right mind, with the right thoughts, with the right truth, and the right words, could hold a worldwide election and bring down all your houses of falsity. Well, let's not even go into that right now. But see, if your system was designed to collapse, as you can find out if you look at just look at the math behind it. And if you had an infinite system that just required opening markets, creating a single currency, and creating a new enterprise of us, not a lot of little monopolies, but a larger little monopoly, big monopoly of us, and then allow our plans and allow our own competition within our own enterprises to compete to build a better world for all people on the planet. And we were looking for the old school angel capital with my new venture guys, and they couldn't get around to getting out of their day jobs. And then, while sitting around, I started going crazy again and put it in a camera. And I thought, well, my next movie is this. Is Bill Starr crazy? Or has he invented the next big things? And I started going crazy in the camera. And I went crazy again. And then I got my 5150 again. Another stay. This time, I met a guy, and I asked him 3 questions. Dr. Elliot, what would it be worth to prove the existence of God? What would 999 years of justice and peace on earth be worth? What if I had insider information of unworldly proportions? Of course, I did just not. But in that place, that cuckoo's nest I revisited for the second time before it went bankrupt upon the clinic, it had a picture on the story aside, said, be the author of your own life story. And I thought to myself, who is the king author of the future earth? Because in my vision, The future of the Earth is a story of the future of all of us, writing our own future together, in one movie together, a reality movie, a reality you can't get out. And you want to be in, because there's no better thing that we can do than to build upon what we can imagine together. Thank you. To the next episode.